everybody, and welcome back to the How I Got Greenlit podcast. As always, I am Sam Levine, and I am joined by writer, director, and the creator of Project Greenlight, Alex Keledjian. Alex, how are you living in the world today in our corporately ruled, fascist oligarchy world?
Is this your preamble to the Running Man?
This is my preamble to Running Man.
Welcome to the Running Man.
Survive the world's deadliest game show.
Walk away with $1 billion.
That's actually not true. No one has ever survived.
We know a way to beat it, but we have to work together.
The biggest underdog win in game show history.
Okay, you ready?
It's gonna work. I can't just let you win this game.
I need weapons and a disguise.
Holy shit, is that C4?
BFE, big fucking explosion.
I'm gonna burn this building down.
That's the spirit.
The Running Man, only in theaters. Friday, get tickets now.
I'm just another number. I think that I like this movie. I wanted to see an Edgar Wright movie. I didn't quite see an Edgar Wright movie. I saw a few Edgar Wright, I saw a few Edgar Wright shots. Mm-hmm. So the movie itself, the original and the new one, are both commentaries about sort of the culture that they come about in. Future stories usually are. And what's interesting about it is while the story is unfolding, you're looking at how the director is becoming controlled by the machine as well, because he's such a legendarily independent, very specific style that we've grown to love. I love it. And you thought Baby Driver would be that step into a bigger world. It's still considered an indie film, I think, but this one is so big. You see that even Edgar Wright, who has a clear vision, a vision that's custom made for action stuff like this, and yet they buff the edges off. You know, it's kind of like the tale of when they, the U.S. Army would buy 1,000 pounds of the best beef from Texas and then boil it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't like this movie. I wanted to like this movie. I really wanted to like this movie. I love Baby Driver. I thought Baby Driver was so much fun. I wanted this movie to be fun. And honestly, I thought this movie was too serious, actually. It wasn't as fun as I wanted it to be. I thought this movie took itself a little bit too seriously. And I'm a person, oh God, what is his name? Glenn Powell. I like Glenn Powell. I think Glenn Powell was a fun time, and either this role was poorly written for Glenn Powell or Glenn Powell was miscast, because I do not think of Glenn Powell as the always angry guy. I think of him as like a charming, fun guy, and I didn't think Glenn Powell worked in this role. I want to see the Glenn Powell that's more like loose, that's not just like angry. Like the whole character, all he was angry all the time. Like that, they built his entire character around that. And the movie had a very sort of like loose, like it just made you accept a dystopian world that it didn't try to flesh out at all. And maybe that's good in a way, but I don't know. It did not work for me. I thought this movie had little bits and pieces everywhere that never came together.
I think that I try to think of who's our legendarily sort of anger actors.
That's
like
a great question.
Like a Tom Hardy would rage against the machine. I think the whole point is they're trying to personify what frankly we all feel, which is frustration at the system. Mm-hmm. We all feel sort of at the whims of a health company or a government or a meter maid, whatever. Like the modern civilization gets you down, and there, I think wish fulfillment of like wanting to express that anger, physically with explosions and car chases is, a valid one. That's where I wanted to go. is have my catharsis about all my authority issues played out. But instead, that's the thing, is he's finding his persona. I think he's here to stay. I wasn't sure. We joke about the Jacob Elordis and the sort of beefcake of the month club, whatever that Hollywood's been doing since, the Edison administration. And, he's got more to him than the pretty face. And, I've been raving about Chad Powers. I don't know if you checked that one out, but it's on Hulu.
Was that the one that the Gus Van Sant did?
Oh, no. This is a very recent, I think it's this season. Powell and a writer created a show. It's kind of the anti-Ted Lasso for Hulu. And he plays a football star.
Oh.
Here's the pitch. Pretty boy football quarterback, cocky because he's really good. Mm-hmm. And he does something so dumb and so arrogant that he ends up losing everything. And so his solution, it's almost like a bosom buddies level of like comedy, but his solution is to put prosthetic makeup on his face and look like someone else and start over at a different college. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what he does. And it works because he's really a good quarterback. Yeah. But what you find is the douchey pretty boy that had everything handed to him is now sort of a Cyrano faced guy. So the world treats him differently, and he starts to act differently, and he starts to learn lessons. And it's not as heartwarming as I'm describing it. It's actually pretty dark. I'll give away this. The thing he does is he accidentally drops the ball before he scores the winning quarterback, the winning touchdown in the big game, and then throws such a fit at the official that he gets kicked out, and a sideline voice is like, "You're a bum," and he turns around and punches the guy, and it's a little kid in a wheelchair, and he knocks the wheelchair over, and it's all on camera. So it's like, it's kind of dark and kind of mean and kind of hilarious, because I've often said that, like, Chad Powell, what's his name? Glenn Powell has a face you want to punch. And there's two kinds of people that have those kind of faces: the kind that know it and sort of diffuse it, and then they're the kind that just get punched in the face and they don't know why. And so what he did was, he's like, I know what my persona is. I am the cocky pretty boy Iceman in Top Gun archetype. I'm going to really get this. He's the butt of all the jokes, right? Everything wrong happens to him, and you're like, yeah, you pretty boy, And so in this case, this is a misfire on both levels. I'm sure he was like, I love Edgar Wright. I've got juice. I want to work with Edgar Wright. And everyone's like, great. And there is the persona, the assumption that someone bigger, I'm looking at you, Tom Cruise, you're running better than anybody, right?
I want to mention that Tom Cruise clearly taught Glenn Powell how to run. Yeah, when he's doing those karate arms, or continue. In the movie, I was like, remember to say this.
That's the funny behind the scenes scene that we didn't see, is like killing time on the set of Top Gun 2. He gets off the phone. He's like, Tom, can I talk to you for a second? I just got the Running Man. He's like, Tom's like, yeah, I passed on that like a year ago. He's like, right. So could you teach me the secret? He's like, I'd be happy to. You want to learn how to pilot a helicopter as well? So look, he looks good running, and he does action well, and he does a gratuitous shower shot well. Like, he's doing his job. Unfortunately, in this specific role, I agree with you. I would have liked to see the world's angriest man get to fight back at the system. What I'm saying is like, what would the Paul Giamatti version of this movie look like? I read the book or the short story a long time ago, and it was more of an everyman. That's the problem, is that Arnold Schwarzenegger is no any man in the original, and Glenn Powell is just no any man. He's too handsome, he's too cut, he's too buff. In a way, I almost like that. I mean, he's not quite an any man, an everyman either, but I kind of like the schlubby Matt Damon guy in the Elysium.
Yeah, which was by the District. Was it 59?
District
something. Was that great South
District
African?
9.
Yeah, District 9. That great South African movie.
That. So I love that movie. I think
it's a cool movie.
And Elysium is pretty damn good too, because it has that great crazy South African guy as the bad guy. Like he's a fun weird. He was in the A Team. Like he kind of pops up here and there, but that's more of like they were trying to make him everyman. There was no buff shots. There was no greased up packs. There was no whatever. It was just like this guy was. Ironically dystopian future where he's building the robots that then push him around all day and are like the stop citizen, show your ID, that stuff. And so, and even some of the stuff Glenn Powell, was punching the window and this and that, like he wouldn't be able to get away with that. They already established like you get fried just for like looking at, eyes down, move forward. It's very dystopian. And not my favorite. Blade Runner still is the top because the thing they show about Blade Runner is it is a vaguely fascist controlling police force. They're sort of dressed as such, and they're like, get out of the way. Like when you deal with them, they're pretty stormtroopery. But there's a level of dystopian bureaucratic breakdown in that movie that feels more real to human nature. This future looks dilapidated, but I would have expected more visual splendor from Edgar Wright. They basically just did let's get an 83 Camaro and put like, air vents on the back of it somehow, almost like the DeLorean in Back to the Future, versus like a couple of shots of like the shiny cars that the 1% get and things like that. And even the like luxury jet and all that. But look, there is some RoboCop flourishes here. The game shows particularly have that sort of, I'd buy that for $1, sort of like we're getting into really bleak times, and the it's ultra violent. I would say, like, I told my girlfriend, don't bring your 12-year-old because I think it's a little violent for myself, and for a reason. Edgar Wright does do some violence here and there, especially like Shaun of the Dead, but like you said, it's not that wink wink nod nod sort of like softening that he generally has a soft edge to it. Even Baby Driver is tougher. It's more of a crime thriller, but there's always that like comic book whiz bang Edgar Wright thing going that makes it like a PG-13 romp, almost the way Spielberg was in the early years. And so this one is darker, and the violence is very violent and sudden because they want to do the RoboCop thing of like, in the future, we're all desensitized to human violence, and this game show, they track people down, and it's not like, oh, we captured them. No, they like blow them away, headshot, close up, like it's rough. They went for the R. So I don't think it all added up. I think you're right. There's an aspect thing. This aspect's good. This aspect's weak, and so on and so forth. But I guess I came out on a vague thumbs, like a 35-degree thumb up. Like I guess I liked it more than I disliked it. But I guess I'm just trying to temper expectations. I think a lot of my negative reaction to watching films is I want it to be great. And certainly in the latter years, the marketing leads us to a certain place, and then it doesn't really deliver on the promise of the trailer or the whatever. So all that being said, I think there's something there. And I think, if anything, I like that they're trying to deliver a very clear, not too subtle, harsh message about sort of be careful, or where the path that we're on now, this will not be speculative fiction. Like, this will just be our reality. We will be so desperate that people will risk their lives for money, and we'll watch it. There's always a joke. I did a lot of work in reality TV with Project Greenlight and other stuff. And, we would pitch shows to one time I had this development deal. So I would go pitch shows to the head of ABC reality. And we always joked that the ultimate pitch they'll never buy, but will be the biggest hit of all time, is the Execution Channel. And you remember Faces of Death, things like that. It's just a question of like, where are we? So I find it interesting that sort of modern platforms now that are emerging as the new power of let's call it broadcast or wide audience instant communication, like we're talking to you now on. they have a level of standards and practices, just like ABC did, and that streamers have a choice to push that line because they're not really obliged to the same level of either legal standards because the government owns the broadcast channels. That's why all that control was first derived. But it's more kind of a mix of where is the prevailing political wind? Where does their audience want them to go? So if I'm watching an Alien Earth on FX, yeah, I want them to go there. That's an alien show. Don't give me the PG version of an alien show. But on the other hand, maybe I don't need to hear anything worse than ass on certain programs too. That's fine. As far as this though, this is like a hard R, hard violence. But I do like that it is a mainstream film that is making a very overt class commentary about this country.
Okay, you ready for the hottest hot take in potentially the history of hot takes?
Yeah.
All right,
Yes,
here it is. This was Josh Brolin's best performance he's ever delivered, and it just happened to be in this movie. And it's not like his weightiest, most dramatic performance, right? I mean, this guy was nominated for Milk. Like, he's done some great stuff.
Yeah.
But I just think that he held this movie on his shoulders. Like, I really think that this was Josh Brolin's movie, and he took a character that could just be just totally generic and whatever, and he made him likable. He made him complex, and I did not expect to be thinking that, this was going to be Josh Brolin's best performance. Because sometimes I think Josh Brolin, I don't know how hard it was to deliver that performance in No Country for Old Men. I don't know if that's like the most difficult acting anyone ever had to do. Milk is pretty good. Like, I'll give him Milk. I think I like him a lot in Inherent Vice, but again, I think that's kind of an easy performance to give.
That's a parody of his other work.
Right. I just think he just nails this thing. And I think I think he is the linchpin that holds the movie together. How much have I just ticked off everyone watching this right now?
I don't think so. I think that he's coming into this Jack Nicholson sort of vibe of himself, which I like, which is mischievous, but intelligent, an agent of chaos, has fun with villain roles, and it even makes his, quote, good guy roles villainous or his villainous roles good. So I liked him in Weapons. They were setting him up as like maybe the red herring bad guy. He's got a lot of anger issues in that one. By the way, Josh Brolin could play anger better. It'd be interesting to see them flip the roles.
Yeah, and
why not a handsome studio executive?
They should have flipped them. You know what? I want to say that nobody who works in the mines looks like Glenn Powell. And in this movie, Glenn Powell essentially works in the mines.
Yeah, he's a physical laborer. Right.
Josh Brolin looks more like a guy who works in the mines. You dirty him up. And Glenn Powell seems like the smarmy TV executive. Like, really, if you want to just like artistically nail this, you swap those roles.
Yeah, we know Brolin can do anger.
Yeah,
he is attractive, but he's entering sort of his potato-ish phase of the middle age, and happily so. He does have the mascara and the big white fake teeth and the spray tan.
I was wondering were those his real teeth?
No, those were like amplified to make fun of that guy. So he's sort of playing the Ed Harris role in Truman Show. The architect of this hellscape that we're sort of watching unfold and gleefully, by the way. Like, we want our Lokis, our coyotes, to be tricksters and to be enjoying themselves. The dour bad guys are never as fun. They may be more ominous, but they don't bring a level of levity. And I think he did bring a level of levity to an otherwise pretty dark movie. This is a guy, I go back to Edgar Wright, who we've come to expect comedy action, and one of the best at comedy action. Shaun of the Dead, the Cornetto trilogy, so-called Baby Driver, had a lot of fun, funny moments and more serious, and I thought he balanced the tone well there. This just feels like, one of those the classic situation we've heard so many times before, where a very talented indie person or someone who keeps his budgets where they need to be, so he has absolute control. And we've come to love him for that. Even misfires like One Night at Soho have a lot of interesting stuff going on with them. Into the studio machine. And that's what I meant about, like prime rib into boiled meat, which is it would be like hiring the Michelin chef for your new McDonald's franchise, and you have expectations and so does he, but ultimately you win because you own the house. So I think he wanted $110 million train set and he got it. And there is some scale, but nothing too revolutionary. Even there's like some car chases and some buggy chases and some of that. They're fairly pedestrian. It looks like a second unit director kind of handled those. There's a sort of airplane sequence that's pretty middle of the road. Not a lot of the camera work we've come to expect. None of the fun transitions that are sort of the hallmark of his style. But, just let's take him out of the equation. A better than average, studio reboot. Again, at least they're trying to say something. I don't. A lot of the movies we've talked about recently, I don't know what they're saying. So maybe One Battle After Another is trying to say something, but that's a message movie. This is more of like pure entertainment with a little bit of message in it. But people seem to. I mean, I was in a full theater. People seem to dig it.
Speaking of Michelin star chefs working at McDonald's, that leads me to my next point, which is what a terrible, I don't know if it's a misuse of Lee Pace, but certainly an underuse of him. Lee Pace is an extraordinary actor. I'm a big fan of his. I really liked him in this AMC show called *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Love that show.
It's a great show.
Recommend.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's a great actor. I don't think he's achieved the type of stardom he deserves, but he's clearly like a classically trained actor, and they keep his face under a mask for a solid like 80% of the movie. And I just thinking, you know what? I'd rather just see him for more of it. There's an actor in this movie who basically did a porno, like a hardcore pornography. He's one of the main bad guys in this movie, and you get to see him more than you get to see Lee Pace. The actor, he's actually the blonde guy who...
Yeah, the blonde guy. Yeah.
He was in a movie called Love, which is a very controversial movie that is basically triple X. Even though it's like a theatrical release, I believe. Like it's aspiring for art. Whether it achieves that is for other people to say. But yeah, I like Lee Pace a lot. I liked him in this movie when you finally got to see him. And I think he would have made the movie more interesting if you got to, hear him and see him talk more. I don't know. What do you think about it? Was he better used as sort of a reveal at the end?
No, not at all. I actually thought the mask thing was going to be that Glenn Powell was a clone.
Oh, interesting.
And they were having Glenn Powell play the hunter. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, you'd be like, you're not the first, you're a rerun, right. Some kind of commentary on like a reboot or something.
Yeah.
Which would have made more sense. This mask thing, it's kind of reminiscent of like Frank Miller, Dark Knight Returns kind of era of like BDSM shit. Mm-hmm. So again, it's another like dark element that just this whole movie seems kind of dirty. Does that make sense? Like kind of unseemly.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's not a nice future. Like it's
no. And everybody's sort of out to get each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing that they did do is like they have this thing where he has to do a self-tape, which is very much like reality. Like they'll be like, here, we'll give you a camera, or we're gonna build a little closet, and you come in here and you give us your confessional. Well, I didn't like when Sam said that this was Josh Brolin's finest role. I thought that he was out of line for that, and they can intercut it. We've seen it a million times, folks. So in this case, the running man has to do that. That's part of the way to show like, I'm still alive. I'm still on the run. I'm still somewhere, come and get me. But he starts saying like, workers of the world unite, like he kind of gets a political awakening from it. He's like, oh, it's not just about me making money. Like I can be like a symbol, or as they call it, a catalyst. Right. And so, but then the network can instantly change you, and we've seen this, the deep fake of the world where he's like, don't, it's not about winners and losers. There, just ask yourself, like, who owns the network, and they're the real bad guys, and turn it off, and like very like cool, like, take back your power kind of message. And then they turn it into like, well, I hate black people and Latin people and Asian people and all y'all. And it's just like, uh-oh. And that makes them want to hate him and want to report him. And so there's a lot of this, like, I was trying to explain to somebody are you familiar with like the social point system in like China and North Korea?
No.
So what they've done is they've taken the tools of mass surveillance that we have somewhat, but not nearly as much, where the citizens are put into the loop of self policing, and it's an economy. So if you jaywalk, your fellow citizen can report you and tape it and submit it, and they get a point, and you lose a point. And if you lose enough points, you don't get certain jobs, or you don't get a loan, or you don't get a driver's license, or you don't get a so-and-so. So it's training a society of narcs, not dissimilar to, a Nazi Germany or an East German Stasi sort of situation, or, Soviet Russia at its worst, where the fear is so pervasive that people self-report. The young man who's propagandized will report his father who doesn't who talks bad about the dear leader at the dinner table, and these sort of scary scenarios that actually happen and could happen again. And in this case, they're making it all fun and games. It's a game show, right? But it's a very scary implication. And so China and North Korea already do it. They've leveraged what tools we have now, which are certainly powerful, but we know with the coming of AI and ubiquitous drones and all these other means of spying, watching, observing, surveilling, they're turning everybody in America into a narc. You get 5,000 if you report them, you get 10,000 if you kill them. It's like very much like that. And it's like not as far away as we think, and I hope that this does, in a funny way, stimulate somebody somewhere, maybe a younger person, to be like, yeah, I don't want to live in that world. And I'll tell you what, I saw it with my dad, who's very right of center, let's say, and I thought he'd hate it. I thought there was a lot of red hats. I thought there was a lot of flannel. I thought there was a lot of casting that was not overt, but certainly not subtle, about who was who and what was what in this future. And I thought that my dad, being more conservative, would be offended by the message of this movie, like, made by some communist. He liked it. And he said, yeah, I don't want the government to know everything. I don't want them to be watching me all the time and this and that. I'm like, okay, so I guess we bond on that issue. Of course, if you scratch one layer deep, it usually just means he wants his guys watching us.
I think the thing with movies like this that portray like a dystopian future is that no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, you tend to think that it's the other side that caused the future that you're watching.
That's what you begat.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's why your dad could watch that and enjoy it. He's like, you see where your beliefs will get us, son? I have a question for you. You have made a movie. I have never made a movie. I have made short films in college, but never a feature-length, fully produced, actually realized movie. I found some of the editing in this movie to be really confusing and jarring, and like I didn't understand, and it literally made me sometimes not understand if something was a flashback or if something was happening or if something was a dream or if something was not a dream, or even the end of the movie. I'm like, how much time just took place like between the ending? Like, quite frankly, I thought this movie was really poorly edited, but I don't want to like go out too much on a limb and say like I know this movie was poorly edited, because maybe it was just a me thing. Did you observe that sometimes the editing in this movie like didn't click?
Yeah, I mean, especially for me in the action scene. Well, let's talk about the ending. Let's set that one aside. That's a whole subtopic. But the editing, there's a thing, it's like actors call it blocking, there's camera blocking, there's actor blocking. It's the notion of like, okay, we're in a space, a room. The actor blocking is, okay, Glenn, you walk in, you stop right there on that mark, you say your line, and then you walk out the other door. Okay, and then the camera has to decide, well, where am I going to block the camera to portray that movement? Okay, so the thing about Edgar Wright, which is great, which is also something that I said about early Spielberg, which is blocking. So even the like very quiet scenes of, say, Jaws are very intricately blocked, meaning you can cover a lot of expository dialogue in a scene or in a story or in a sequence in a one shot. And the camera starts here, the actor goes there, the camera moves here, the actor moves here, the camera moves here, another actor comes in, we follow the other actor. And you realize it was all one shot, but it was for what they call setups, like it's sitting into a shot and there's no cut in between. And that requires a little more planning and a little more sort of ballet synchronization between the actors and the crew. And that's fun. That's more the challenge. Okay, you do this, and then the boom guy's got to swing around the back so he doesn't get in the mirror. And it's the kind of the dance of it. And Edgar Wright is known for being incredible at those kinds of things. It felt like they wanted him to do a lot of extra coverage of action scenes because the logic is always like, we paid a lot for this muffler, so we want 100 different shots of it. And so there could have been maybe not a final cut for him where they thought, well, we shot so many of these shots of this fight scene, let's make sure to use all of them. And that's not good storytelling. That's like human nature. Like, well, I bought a $5 million action sequence. I want to see that money on the screen. A director that's in service of the story, as you hope they all are, and I'm sure this one has been and will continue to be, has to be brutal. Like, oh, what about that take where I cried, said the actor. He has to say, no, it messed up the pacing. We had to go to the next scene. And then the stunt coordinator will say, well, what about that fall that I did where I almost broke my neck? There's something about it. It didn't work. We had to cut it. Like, you have to be ruthless. So in this case, it just felt like they felt like they wanted to do a Michael Bay sort of cut to some of the action sequences, which is those really cutty 1 second, less than 1 second shots, almost like a confusion level of onslaught. And that's not the way to build a better railroad. I look at The Matrix. The Matrix had their actors rehearse the shit out of those sequences so that they could do long takes and maybe move a little bit, but really more let the acting be the bodies in motion. Don't let the cutting create the motion or the emotion. So I would have wished for more of that choreography. By the way, someone who's notoriously bad at it is Christopher Nolan. He does a lot of things well, but his action sequences are poorly shot and poorly edited, and they always give me a headache.
Something I want to say about this movie is that I think tonally it's a mixed bag because it can't decide if it wants to be satire or not. And I have a long and established reputation of not liking Paul Verhoeven. I just generally.
I was just going to say that's the guy. He does it better than anybody. Yeah.
But I think this movie was made for Paul Verhoeven. In fact, I had to Google to make sure that he did not direct the original because it seems so up his alley. And I think that if you gave this movie to Paul Verhoeven, it becomes that kind of pure satire where it's so satirical, I guess to the point, like it's almost like Starship Troopers, where it's like you first watch it as a kid, let's say, and you don't know it's satire. You just think it's this crazy movie. And then you become an adult later and you find out it's satire. Yeah, I just don't think this was the right project for Edgar Wright. And I like him a lot, and I don't like Paul Verhoeven, but I think that this movie would have benefited from someone who, quite frankly, made it more satirical. I don't think it went far enough. I thought there were times the movie just got too serious. It tried to garner too much sympathy out of you. I think it could have been more ridiculous. And I think Brolin played it like that. I think, is his name Coleman Domingo? I think he played it like that.
Yeah, the TV host.
Yeah, or is it Domingo Coleman? I'm sorry for all. Is it Domingo Coleman? He's a good actor, but I'm sorry for the people that's what happens when you have two first names, all right? Not my fault. But yeah, I just think that there were times that, like Baby Driver's a great movie, but Baby Driver has moments where like, it's like, all right, we're going to get serious now because we need you to sympathize with our lead. And I'm not sure how necessary that was in this movie, especially when they introduce a rich young white female at the end. I have no idea what that was about. That was such a strange turn about trying to get a young rich white female in there to, I don't know. What was the point of that, Alex? You tell me, man.
Well, just to clarify, Coleman Domingo.
Okay, Coleman Domingo.
Okay, so he was the...
My apologies to both
intro.
Robert Redford and Coleman Domingo.
Yeah, so, well, it was a shame because I liked that actress. She's was in that show Task recently. I don't know if you saw that.
Was that with Mark Ruffalo?
Yes.
I did not watch it because I don't watch Mark Ruffalo stuff if I don't.
She's a British actor and she's very good and she does great accents. I mean, I believe her in all these different roles. She felt like Basil Exposition, kind of like they wanted somebody in the car with him to sort of share the journey. And up till then, we've seen what he was given early advice of like, stay with your own kind, like hide with, you're poor, hide with the poors. And, someone then tells him like, those are the people that'll sell you out first, So I think it was almost this sort of like weird, class guilt, white guilt, something.
Was it the studio's attempt to say that like not all rich white people are bad? I mean, what was happening? It almost felt like the movie was undercutting its message. Like oddly, like the movie was like saying like the rich, the upper crust 1% are terrible, and yet they give you someone who's of that percentage, and she's like, "Oh, I don't want to be a bad guy. I'm a good guy." I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
So that was an odd choice. Yes, she was taken as a hostage, and then she had the ability, because our hero is a heroic guy. He's like, "No, I'm sorry. You can go. Just run away." And she's like, "No, I'm with you till the end. If only to show people like I'm a good guy." And he's like, "Well, no one's watching." And she's like, "Well, I guess I mean me." It's like, it was it was clunky. It was odd. And it's a kind of a waste of a good actor is what I'm trying to say. Like Lee Pace, by the way, you don't cover, like he's a great bad guy. Why cover his face? It's like we didn't gain anything from that covering of the face because it was supposed to be, well, I guess I don't want to spoil it. It's supposed to be a dun, dun, dun when he takes the mask off. And they never laid the groundwork of the reveal. So we go, oh, yeah, it's that Lee Pace guy. We're not like, oh, it's the president. Like there's no in-universe reason why we should care whether he has a mask on. We should have just let him twirl his mustache like only Lee Pace can. What's wrong with that? It just, there's a lot of strange choices in terms of the actress that plays I'd call it whatever, the yuppie. I didn't get the feeling that she was like the upper. She was sort of like the middle,
upper middle class,
aspiring to be upper, like, oh, nice scarf. It's worth more than my baby.
Yuppie's the perfect term for her. She's a yuppie.
So it's like, she's a climber and this one, brush with this terrible man, she's able to see like, well, maybe they're lying to me. And then they do a thing where they show her the state shows her the ability to instantly edit the video to suit their narrative. Right. There's a lot of talk about narrative in this film, which I like, because that's sort of the larger conversation is controlling the image, controlling the narrative. In this future, there's a feeling that the government and the network are sort of one and the same, right? So there's even like this sort of super fan guy who tells him about, oh, there's three kinds of runners. There's the like dead duck, the like party animal, and then the one who goes all the way, and which I thought was kind of fun. But she seemed to, like you said, sort of fulfill this. I want to say that I'm not a bad person. Like the sort of, is that the filmmaker's sort of entreaty to the the sort of people in history who do nothing, you know, that just kind of are the bystanders and maybe should be aware of what's going on around them and you know, need to have sort of a wake up call. She didn't really do anything story wise. It was really just Wilson, the volleyball, someone for the hero to have a little conversation with instead of just, you know, gritting his teeth and staring off into the middle distance, you know. So
and they gave him a Wilson already. It's the camera.
It's the camera.
He could have just talked to the camera more.
Yeah, yeah. And he could have just said, "Come on, man, you can do this." Like,
yeah.
I don't mind that. You know, I don't. Even if it was like a rat from the sewers, I would have liked that better.
That would be great if he starts going a little nuts.
There is a rat in the sewers sequence, and it's like, yeah, like rats survive. Yeah. Why not? Give him a little rat. Call him Ratty. Like, it doesn't even matter. And it's that's the problem, is she didn't really. If she had like blossomed into something interesting, well, fine, so be it. But it really just was that, like, let's have a white guilt moment. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't necessary. The ending was something.
I don't understand it. Did he like? Does the ending take place on the last day of the 30 days?
So no.
Explain it to me, please. I just don't understand what happened.
So they purport that the act. Well, are we spoiling everything? Is that?
Oh, we're spoiling this Running Man movie.
So okay, so like, they purport that the action of the sort of ultimate showdown was on the 18th day of his run. So he never really like broke any records or anything. He just was running. But the idea is he broke the system. Okay. In the original book, which I recommend, it's actually pretty good. Also super dark. No ifs, ands, or buts. There's no funniness. It's like Stephen King, dark, but good, and like short and sweet. The ending is takes control of a plane and flies it into the broadcast tower in New York. The end. Kills everybody. The end. So in a post 9/11 world, you can't do that ending, although it was great for its time. It was like a late 70s when like The Thing had a dark ending and like Escape from New York had a dark ending. It was like, yeah, blow them away, you know? And so I was kind of hoping like, yeah, just do it. And then, you know, they didn't do it. And they purported to do it. And then they decide to like kind of, you know, geld it a bit, let's say. There was a bizarre tack on where you think they blow up the plane and then he's gone and that's the end and the network wins. But then there's this sort of pirate radio character who's like, here's the truth about what happened. And they say that he punched out and there was a secret extra parachute and he got away. And there's this sort of recurring like Ben Richards lives, like sort of a growing movement of people believing that he lived. There's also this, did they or didn't they? It got very reality bending about halfway through, because there's a reveal where they go, well, you know, we say we've been sending all this money to your family, but actually like we killed them, you know? And it's like, oh, I mean, I guess you could believe that. They're pretty harsh. And then that sort of sets him off on the revenge plot that they were hoping to trigger. And then the guy says, the Josh Brolin character is like, well, actually, you know, maybe we killed him, maybe we didn't. Like, we're messing with reality now. Who knows? Why would we? Maybe we keep her alive and then we torture her later if you get out of line. You know, it's very that sort of like, did they or didn't they? It almost felt like a dream, like the notion of some of these characters, they die at a certain point and what we're seeing is their wish fulfillment ending. So maybe he died in the crash, but this is the sort of like righteous ending that he wanted, which is he's reunited with his wife and child and he storms the battlements of the TV studio and kills the bad guy on stage. It's like, we didn't really set the table for all the steps that would be necessary to get us to that point, right? It was viscerally satisfying, but I kind of felt like, was there a bleak ending? And then somebody said to somebody like, we need to do a reshoot where Josh Brolin gets his just desserts. Like, how did you feel about that?
The way I felt was that my biggest concern for this film is that there will be a sequel. That's what the ending felt like it was setting up to me. It was like, get ready for the Running Man 2. And I was just thinking to myself, please. No.
I didn't get that.
Right.
I really didn't get that.
So there are two bits of casting in this movie I really like. In fact, there's a lot of casting in this movie I really like, but two of them are two guys I'm always happy to see. One is Michael Cera and one is William H. Macy.
Yes.
And they're both super effective in it.
Kind of wasted.
They both defy logic a little bit too. They both have their own issues where it's like the Michael Cera character is this sort of underground,
prepper. He's a prepper.
He's a doom prepper. Only he can't wait to get in a fight, which is kind of like okay, but he was still very enjoyable, and I think he's always a winning actor even in bad projects. And then William H. Macy's always good. The only thing that didn't make any sense was how he knew Glenn Powell at all. So William H. Macy sells weapons basically. He's like, I don't know, he's like an underground arms dealer, disguise man.
Well, it's sort of like it feels like one of those secret marketplaces that you find in GTA 5.
Right, but it's like, why does he know Glenn Powell? And why are they so close?
And they're like
that
buddies.
He's about to give Glenn Powell a job. It makes no sense.
Well, also he seemed like this father figure. Wouldn't he be like, "Hey, man, I'm really hitting bottom. Like, what would you do?"
I thought they were going to reveal that it was his dad, and that he calls him by his first name,
right, or something. Yeah, and then that's what I mean. He was wasted. It's like you had William H. Macy, and it was really more of just like a quick expositional, well, here's where you were now, and now you're screwed, and so here I'll make you a fake ID, and it's like that's it.
And some of the nonsensical editing is there's a moment where you see William H. Macy being tortured to give up information about Glenn Powell, and then Glenn Powell wakes up, and I'm like, was that Glenn Powell's dream that was happening, or was that really happening? I think that was bad. For me, that's just bad editing. I can't. What was it?
Well, okay. So now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, I think that it's a subjective thing. You don't like it, that's fine. I didn't mind it. I took that to mean it really happened. It's something that is possible to happen in Glenn Powell's character's mind, like a fear of his. Like, ooh, maybe they did track me to Old Man McGee's place, and maybe they are asking him where I am because he made this ID. They could just track Jim Smith, and they would know I'm in this hotel. So and keep in mind, didn't he go to sleep that night seeing the first runner get whacked? So he's already kind of on edge. So I just felt it was more like he had a bad dream and was like, yeah, I better keep moving.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not even sure it was deliberate. I actually think it just might have been poorly,
just lazy,
just poorly timed, where they didn't realize that cutting from William H. Macy getting tortured to Glenn Powell waking up, they think it's just next scene, chronologically. Because I also think it happened as well, and I think it was just an accident that, look, if you show anything and then show a guy waking up, people are going to think it's a dream.
Yeah,
you've got to figure out a way to get around, and I just think the same.
No,
thing
you're right.
The same thing at the end of the movie where you mentioned how did he get from being with his family to storming the network building?
Well, let's be honest. Two things. One, we're supposed to believe that the network not only didn't kill the wife and kids, but left them alone.
Relocated them to a
somewhere else,
suburb.
They live in Vancouver now.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how did he track them? Because there's a character goes, oh, that fella outside paid for your bill, Mrs. Richards. She's like, my name isn't Mrs. Richards. It's Mr. Smith or whatever, and it's so he knew where you were, tracked you down, and did this weird surprise greeting. But then it was I don't know. It felt slapdash, that ending.
Agreed.
It also didn't feel like the ending of the story they told.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can have a dark ending that also could have some balancing out, let's call it. What I would do is I would have had the audience be pissed off and feel like something was amiss, just enough of a doubt, wait a second, what happened there? the show's ratings goes down, and Brolin ends up as the final contestant on the show.
Yeah.
Because failure is not an option when you're, in the network game, right?
Yeah.
Or something to that.
Oh,
Either
that would be a good idea. Absolutely.
He's brought low. He's his job is taken away. He's put on one of the other game shows, which were kind of funny actually. They had the hamster wheel show and some of the other ones that were dark and slightly awful in every way.
Yeah.
But do you see what I mean? Like that would be more of
100%.
almost like Brazil. Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the surveillance state? Are we talking about classist? Are we talking about propaganda? I would have had the pirate radio guy use their tricks against them and edit a video of Josh Brolin saying, I live at 123 Mockingbird Lane.
Right.
I'm not afraid, come and get me. And then a big mob shows up and like pitchforks the whole plate. Like, okay, that gives me like the red meat that I need. But the double good ending of he gets the wife and the kid and the bad guy come up and the system comes down. It's like I didn't get all the connective tissue to that. That's why it felt like a dream to me, some kind of projection.
I want to go on a bit of a rant here and preempt some criticism that people could potentially levy at us, because I think people do this a lot. When you mention like, why wouldn't the network just off his family? People might say, well, like, this is a ridiculous like sci-fi future in which like anything can happen. So like, why does that bother you? And I always say like every world has its own logic, even if it's a fantasy world, even if it's a sci-fi world, there's still a set of logic and rules that characters should follow by so they don't contradict themselves. I think a great notion of that was that Lord of the Rings TV series in which they have a black elf. And I always say it's weird that none of the other elves seem to care, because the elves are super into like whiteness. They're just like literal whiteness. I don't mean like Caucasianness. I mean like actual like the color white. Like everything they show is like fair and like, like bright. So then to like have like the only black elf amongst them and for all of them to not even notice it would be crazy. And my point is that like, I think this movie, to bring him back to The Running Man, a lot of the things, it defies its own logic. It builds this world of cruelty and, this dystopian future. And then it's just like, yeah, they'll cheat everything, right? They'll fake videos of Glenn Powell. They'll do everything possible, except they'll still let his family, they'll still relocate his poor family to a rich suburb.
They're just fine. Yeah, they're not locked up. They're not killed in a ditch. They're not tortured. They're not, I don't know, put to work in the factory making cell phone, whatever the thing is. It just was an odd, idealized, like, oh no, they decided, hey, we have some heart and we've determined they have no heart. They on the air of the show, they're shooting other running men like square in the eye. It's like,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Like in a close up.
Yeah.
And then like, woo, kind of doing weird, like Abu Ghraib photos of it. But like, it just, somebody said somewhere we need a happy ending. It's almost like Edgar Wright was like, I'll give you a happy ending. You're going to get a triple banana sundae with maple syrup on top. Like it was almost too much, and like even cutting, like doing that fade to black. And then you come up on Glenn Powell was irreversibly damaged in the final explosion. And the wife and child are there and it's a hospital, but they're projecting him like winning his big mission into his sort of semi-coherent potato head body. That's all that's left of him, like that's a future, it's very Twilight Zone-y, but I feel like The Running Man is a Twilight Zone, like Black Mirror sort of premise. So I can't remember one of those shows that had a happy ending. I mean, the whole point of a morality tale is somebody's got to get it in the end. Right. So what the early messaging for his character, for Glenn's character was, why did you put yourself into their system? There's no way to win. Right. Like that's what the William H. Macy character says. I liked Sarah. It was good to see Sarah, but as my daughter called it, that Home Alone sequence, could have been bigger and better if they were going to go there.
Yeah, when you say the Home Alone sequence, you're talking about the Michael Cera sequence?
It's a Home Alone sequence.
That was my exact thought in the theater because I just showed my son Home Alone like a week ago. And I was like, oh, they're just doing like much more violent rated R Home Alone. And it worked. It was cool.
It was like riffing on that. And it's like, and the big trailer moment was, he electrifies the floor and then uses like a super soaker. And so it was, what you're talking about is like, and you see it most in horror movies, right? They'll say, don't feed the mogwai after midnight. And you know what I mean? Whatever the rules are, like, and then someone flaunts the rules and they get stomped.
Yeah.
If there's a last minute change in the rules to fulfill some story necessity, we feel it. We really feel it. And I know how it is to get boxed in to a dramatic corner.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh no, like the only way I can get out of here is I break my own rule that I established on, minute 10, which is like, never feed them after midnight. And like, well, the only way that's fun story wise is if they're like, well, we have to, because we need to trigger this thing to go to eat the bigger monster that's coming to get us. You know what I mean? Like that's when the audience is rewarded. They call them like Easter eggs, right? Yeah. Like one Easter egg in this show in this movie is he's watching a game show. They're doing quiz questions. One of the quiz questions is on the new luxury Z1000 Stratocaster turbo jet that only the billionaires can afford. How many bathrooms are there? 4, 5, or 6.
Right.
And so they pay it off later. They go on the Stratocaster jet and there's a sequence where he has to search all 6 bathrooms. It's like, that's a call and response that an audience or even a reader of scripts, you're giving them a reward. You paid attention. We gave you a detail. It was seemingly innocuous, but now here it is again. Now it was just sort of that, like a cosmetic, like, hey, I remember there's 6 bathrooms on that thing. But what they should have done is like, whatever you do, don't ever take the bracelet off. I mean, there was some basic stuff that was never addressed. Like, well, yeah, the bracelet is a tracer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're cheating.
Yeah, of course.
Well, yeah, like you have no proof that any of this money went anywhere. They're just telling you.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
show me a third person bank account statement that you can be like, oh, it actually went to the Swiss bank account.
Yeah,
it's all taken on faith, and for some reason you have like very high tech stuff on the one hand, and then you have like tapes. That you have to deliver
like
by
literal
hand?
tapes. Like it
like
makes,
physical,
it makes no sense. Yeah, why would you go to a mailbox? Like,
well, it's also like they have these DNA trackers so everybody can see where you are at all times, and they have this requirement that you have to mail the tape, physically mail the tape according to this like sort of futuristic drone delivery FedEx thing. And it's like, oh, well, you know what? We could save a bunch of money. Why don't we just put cameras on all the drone drop boxes? And when he drops the box, we know he's in Boston.
Yeah.
It's it's a lot of holes in that.
Here is my overall review of this movie. It is the type of anti-corporation movie that a corporation would make. It is
yes, that's exactly right.
Every shortcoming, every safe choice they make, every bow to the pressure of the demands of what they think the audience would want. These are all corporate choices. I mean, this is a corporate movie. This is a corporation making an anti-corporate movie, and it seemed. Was there like a Monster energy drink ad in this movie too? Yes. Like,
would
really,
you like a Monster? Oh yeah, very overt.
It was like,
would you like a Monster? And he's like, no thanks.
And I couldn't tell, like, was the no thanks the part where it's like, oh, is this an ad? Because if it was really an ad, of course he would drink it. I don't like, dude, this movie, I could not tell, like, it. You can make a movie about people making this movie. I think that would be a more interesting movie where you watch a director trying to make an anti-corporation movie for a large corporation. What is your final review of this movie?
I think that's pretty succinct. I think it was a near miss, and I think we see a lot of these Marvel movies being made by competent directors, let's call it.
Absolutely.
but like a Peyton Reed. Like I don't have any beef with Peyton Reed at all, but I also don't know who that person is and what their like point of view is. That's a producer's medium, and I feel like this movie augured into a producer's film. It's not a director's film. It's not a vision. There's glimpses. It's almost like they put Edgar Wright, they put like a black bag over his head and took him to a black site, but there was little holes in the hood. So he could see little glimpses of like a vision of a dystopian future that had like interesting commentary and it was sort of like indoctrinated out of him. I don't know what went wrong here. Maybe when you add an extra 2 zeros to your budget, like that's the cost.
Absolutely. Have you noticed we're doing a lot of 80s remakes? That there's a continuing trend on this podcast, which means there is a trend in the movies that these 80s properties are making a comeback. And there's one 80s property that I love that I think should get remade. It is going to be remade by the guy I wanted to remake it, which is Highlander. Highlander's getting remade by Henry Cavill, who I literally was. I love Highlander, but that movie's kind of dated, and I think could actually be better if taken seriously. And I said to myself, like months ago, I was like, man, Henry Cavill should remake that, and it turns out he is. So the whole point is that like I'm getting tired of these '80s remakes. However, very excited for the Highlander.
Except for that one,
yeah.
Well, I'll just say this: that if it must be so. I would rather see a Valiant near miss improved than a classic diluted.
Okay. And what was this in? Which category is it in?
This was the former.
Okay.
The Running Man was one of the lesser of the Arnold Schwarzenegger run of the 80s and 90s. It just was. I wanted it to be great, and it wasn't. It's fun. But it's just too campy to make it. And so I think someone saw that and they're like, well, look, we've got a reboot. We've got Stephen King. Like we can make, we'll get a good director that loves both of them. And so the formula felt right. It just, maybe they baked it too long or something. I think that Highlander comes into that category as well. That was like a near miss. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's not a classic. It's a camp. It's a late night, underground sort of classic. It's the one that you love for this flaws.
It's a great idea, not well executed, but
Correct.
It's a great idea.
It's a great idea.
It's a blend of fantasy.
Well, look,
and sci-fi.
Running Man is a great idea.
Yes.
It's the devil's in the details. I mean,
100%.
Both of them. But I look, if it must be so, and I just don't see an end to this. I mean, so then let's pick the library stuff that for some reason it didn't quite gel, it didn't quite work, and then fix the things that we thought didn't quite work and try again, especially as you say, a good concept, a good idea, that's something that still resonates, and Highlander certainly does. And I thought this one did too, but don't worry, there will not be a running woman or a running child or a running dog. There will be no more of this property. We can now say will not run.
Yeah, all right, guys, we're wrapping it up. Everybody, this is the How I Got Greenlit YouTube show and podcast. As always, I am Sam Levine. That's Alex Keledjian. Guys, we are reading the comments, as you can tell by my rant. We like them, even when they're critical. So please rate us, review us. If you like us, share us, tell your friends. Alex, as always, it's been a pleasure. And once again, we apologize to the corpse of Robert Redford. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.